The table's starting to tilt a little?
It is.
Okay.
Ooh. Hey, what's up, guys? As many of you know, I suffer from an undiagnosed disorder that causes dizziness and balance problems. The theory has been that I suffer from possibly vestibular neuritis or labyrinthitis. That was just kind of a very loose hypothesis by the doctors that I've had so far, except for my ear, nose, throat doctor actually is starting to think that it might not be what we've been kind of thinking it is. And then my latest primary care physician is also kind of questioning that idea as well. So my ENT ordered a VNG test, and that's tomorrow. And I've had to wait all this time to get one because nobody in the area did VNG tests until recently. So I went on a list, and when it was my turn, I got a phone call from the company that does the testing. So the VNG test tests the function of the brain and the function of the inner ear in response to different stimuli. What they do is strap on some goggles that have cameras in them. They measure the eye movements. But I'm very nervous about the test because I was told by a different doctor that these tests tend to be a little unpleasant. Of course, unpleasant is a subjective term, so that could be left up to the individual to determine what is unpleasant and what isn't. And having an anxiety disorder really complicates things. I don't know what to expect tomorrow, but I am extremely nervous. So to help cope with this nervousness and anxiety about tomorrow, as you can see, I went for another hike. I go for a lot of hikes. And just coming out in nature here to just reset my mind, let go of the stress and worry and anxiety, and try not to think about tomorrow. And by doing this, hopefully it'll give me a fresh start for tomorrow. So if you've watched my other videos about dizziness, and I'll put a link in the description with more detail to this dizziness disorder that I have. But basically, in a brief nutshell, I started having dizziness problems when I was 7. I'm 38 years old now. And I struggled off and on with feeling off balance, and then to some degree. And then almost exactly 3 years ago, things suddenly got much, much worse, just out of the blue. I had a plugged up right ear, just that I woke up with one morning, and I couldn't hear out of that ear for about 6 weeks. And then right in the middle of that, all of a sudden, I just became 100 times dizzier than I'd ever been. Had like a violent rocking motion, felt like I was on a boat, had extreme sense of disequilibrium and imbalance. My vision was bouncy, and I had extreme sensitivity to motion, any kind of motion. I'd turn my head, it would feel like my head was still turning after I stopped. And my head would just keep spinning after I'd move it. And then it would just go back to that violent rocking sensation, feeling floaty and just everything, all balance symptoms that you can imagine I had. As I started doing VRT exercises, most of the rocking motion, the non-rotational vertigo went away. But I'm still left with this imbalance that's just plaguing me. It's gotten better, and I don't have the sensitivity to motion as much anymore. So I'm like 70-80% better than I was at the outset of all this. But I've reached a point where I don't feel like I'm getting any better. But I'm also not getting worse. So that's my brief background. All right. Well, we'll be in touch tomorrow, guys. So guys, I'm getting a VNG. I'm wearing these awesome goggles, and here in the office getting tested. We just did the, what was it, the gaze stabilization? I don't know, what did you call the, what do you call the first set of tests we did?
So the first set with the light bar are called optokinetics.
Optokinetics.
So seeing how your eyes are moving. And then the second thing that we did were positionals. So just putting your head and your body in different positions.
And she was looking for nystagmus in my eyes to hopefully give us more answers about what's going on and how much vestibular function there is. And now she's getting the machine over here ready to do that different temperature air in the ear canal as a stimulus to see what kind of response we get.
So when I put cool air in the ear, it's going to cause the fluid in the ear to move in one direction. When I put warm air in the ear, it's going to cause the fluid in the ear to move in the other direction.
Oh, okay.
So then we're taking a measurement as to how equal they are.
Yeah.
I'll close this for you. I'll let you feel it on your hand first.
Sure.
Cool but not cold.
Yeah, it's like a really cold day in the city.
Yeah.
No, kind of like today.
Alright, here we go.
Alright.
3, 2, 1.
Yep,
The table's starting to tilt a little.
it is.
Okay, just
Ooh.
take some deep breaths for me. It's all completely controlled. And the air's only going to be in your ear for about a minute total.
And I gotta keep my eyes, I gotta remember to keep my eyes open.
You can keep them closed right now, but I'll tell you when to open them up.
Okay.
Because after I take the air out of your ear, I'm going to have you name some things for me.
Okay, oh.
You're doing great. Just a little while longer.
Okay.
There we are. Open up your eyes and name some boys' names that start with A.
Adam.
Mm-hmm. Boys' names with B.
Brian.
Mm-hmm. How about C?
C. Charlie.
Stare at that little light for me. That's going to help everything to slow down. And you don't have to name anything.
Okay.
I'm calming everything down, and in a few seconds I'm going to open up the goggles and have you stare at my finger.
Okay. There we go.
So giving you a visual target helps your ears kind of calm down a little
Yeah, that was, went for a little ride there.
bit. And pick a spot on the ceiling or close your eyes, whatever's going to make you feel most comfortable.
So is it supposed to kind of spin in a certain direction? Because you said the fluid starts circulating.
It can be different, but yeah.
Hmm. It seemed like it was kind of like a barrel roll to my left.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of how I would describe that.
Yeah. And there's a certain way that we expect it, but
Yeah.
always different. And now I'm giving you a few minutes here to just kind of relax. I've
Yeah.
got to let that fluid get back to normal temperature.
Yeah.
Let's see if I can, let me find a good one, because you had some beaters in here.
Okay. So the doctor is showing us just some initial results from the equipment or graphs. And there's my eyes. You can zoom in there. There's my eyes. Wow,
So they're kind of drifting down and then they
Yeah.
tick back up.
yeah,
So those are called upbeating.
upbeating. Mm-hmm.
Mhm. I might be able to find some others too. I'll have beaters here too.
Yeah.
Let's move in the goggles.
Mm-hmm. Well, the test was not as unpleasant as I thought it might be. It was slightly dicey a couple of times, but nothing I couldn't handle. As you saw in the video, they had me put these goggles on that have infrared cameras, or cameras inside the goggles that measure your eye movements in response to various stimuli. So the first set of things she had me do was follow a moving dot. I think she was looking to see how well I could track movement. And I suppose she was also looking for any nystagmus or jumpiness in my vision, or with my eyes, I mean. And then just did some various positions, head positions with the goggles on, with the shade closed, so that I couldn't see anything, and then cut out the visual cues, and then see how my balance system does with that, and how my eyes, any movement of my eyes. And I was aware of some upbeating of my eyes. And then the last part of the test was the part that I showed in the video, where I'm laying on the exam table and she's putting cold air left ear, cold air right ear. I'm sorry, cold air right ear, cold air left ear. And then warm air right ear, warm air left ear. The hot air is 122 degrees. And then the cold air is like 75 degrees, or 70 or 75, something like that. And what it does is it induces a response. So it stimulates each ear that's being tested at the time, which causes vertigo. So I had some pretty strong rotational vertigo. Felt like I was barrel rolling. The cold air wasn't actually too bad on the right side. The left side was actually pretty intense. And then with the hot air, the right ear was pretty intense, and the left ear I actually hardly had any vertigo. And that's called caloric testing. Look it up if you want some more details about what exactly caloric testing is. But basically it stimulates your system and then measures your eye movements with the camera, with the infrared cameras, the direction that the eyes are moving. Just all of those things point to, gives clues for what's wrong with your system. So we're getting closer to a diagnosis by doing this. Anyway, the doctor was really nice. She made me feel very comfortable during the tests. It was a very laid back atmosphere there at the clinic, and that really helps. Great staff. Gonna leave them a really good review, because it was, I'd say, a perfect experience from a patient's perspective. I couldn't have asked for better treatment there. It was excellent. She showed me on the computer screen some of the data from the tests. She was showing me on the computer screen there, which I showed a little bit of. Okay, so the next step is she's going to go over all the data, and she's going to put together the results of the test, and then she's going to send those results to my ear, nose, throat doctor. And then I'm going to make an appointment with my ear, nose, throat doctor, see if we can come up with some answers to what's wrong with me, why I'm dizzy all the time. Okay, well, in just a few minutes, I've got my ear, nose, throat doctor appointment. She has the results of the caloric testing, the ocular-motor reflex testing, basically all the balance function testing. So I'm gonna go in there and find out what's up, or at least get some first steps to figuring out what's up. I'm very nervous, not like I was before the actual testing, but I'm nervous. I don't know what the results are gonna show, but I'm very anxious to find out what's going on. I'm not gonna do any filming in the doctor's office like I did with actual testing. I'll let you know what she said. Okay, I just got back to the car from my appointment, went over the results of the test. It showed significant vestibular dysfunction on both sides, kind of like I suspected, which would explain why I haven't really gotten any better, why I have improved, but I haven't gone all the way and fully recovered from the symptoms, because I seem to have bilateral loss. So that's discouraging. Now, as far as a particular pathology, she said that the test doesn't really point to any particular thing or rule out any particular thing, but seems to have something to do with the inner ear nonetheless, and not the brain. And I've been told that now by pretty much everybody. They've ruled out brain, that it's anything to do with the brain, and probably everything to do with the ears. So this kind of furthers that. Unfortunately, just doesn't tell us what's going on. So the ENT is going to look into she's going to figure out whether she thinks I need a CT scan or an MRI at this point, so that maybe we can take a look inside and see what's going on. Now, her thought is that this could be something congenital, that I was possibly born with inner ears that had defects with them, and that it's finally, in her words, catching up to me now. But I'm just not so sure about that. You know, I had chicken pox when I was 6, and then the next year I started having dizziness problems when I was 7, and then kind of on and off for the rest of my life. And then 3 years ago, what seemed to possibly be an ear infection in the right ear, and then getting much, much dizzier, and then having that dizziness stick around and not go away. So I don't know, I kind of doubt the congenital theory that she has about that my ear, nose, throat doctor. But I'm not a doctor either. I don't know, my gut instinct says it's not probably it. But she doesn't know that for sure. So we're going to do, hopefully, some imaging. And then she also referred me to a vestibular rehabilitation therapist, so somebody who does vestibular exercises. And I'm hoping I can get some further relief from that. And I am having a flare-up right now. I'm kind of in the middle of a dizziness flare-up. Not really having a very good day. But at least we're getting somewhere with this, figuring out what it is. All right, leave your comments below. And I hope you enjoyed this video. Bye, guys. Well, look who decided to get comfy in my spot.